three issues which are very important. Sir, I draw the attention of the respected minister to the clause 6 of the Payment of Wages Amendment Bill 2016. I just read it. All wages shall be paid in current coin or currency notes, or by check, or by crediting the wages in the bank account of the employee. Sir, it gives an impression, probably minister has to clarify. See, in the earlier section that has been repealed and then this section that is substituted, the only difference what I could find is that in the earlier section there were a reference to 1000 rupees notes and then 500 rupees notes, and in this section it says current coin or current currency. That's the only difference what I could find out. Probably if there is any other difference, the interpretation what I could make from this is that even today, see, in view of the issues that which I will come to the later, as I understand that even today the payment of wages can be made by way of cash. This is what we have interpreted. However, I will proceed further, and there is a proviso to this also. Provided that the appropriate government, I leave everything, I will come to the last line. The wages only by check or by crediting the wages in his bank account. See, the proviso says that it is only by way of check, whereas main clause 6 says that it can be made, payment can be made either by coins, current coins or current currency. There is a contradiction according to the minister may clarify it. And further, in the last line says wages in his bank account. It gives an impression that it is applicable only to the male workers. So according to me, this has to be slightly altered. It should say that in his or her bank account. This is what my interpretation is. Correct me if I am wrong, the Honorable Minister, sir. Sir, secondly, three other issues, sir. 27% of the villages, rural India, villages in India have got the banking access within 5-6 kilometers range. If the intention of the objective of the act is to make the payment only by way of check into the or credit into the bank accounts of the employees, how is it possible to credit the amount in the bank account of the employee where the banking facilities are not available? At least say about 75% of the villages are not covered, there is no banking infrastructure. This is point number one, sir. Therefore, I request the government to first create the banking infrastructure so that the act can be implemented more effectively. Sir, secondly, 90%, as the honorable members have pointed out, 90% of the workforce in this country are in the unorganized sector. So I request the government to make this act applicable even to the unorganized sector workers also. This is another request. My third point, sir, the whole exercise, what ma'am, please. Sir, I really don't understand why the government has opted to promulgate the ordinance for this particular act. Sir, of course, President of India, Honorable President of India has got every right to promulgate an ordinance under Article 123 of the Constitution. Depends upon the exigencies, and if the situation is so warrants that in case if he feels that the law should be brought into force immediately, he can promulgate the ordinance. Nobody will deny that. Nobody will say no to that. Sir, I bring it to your kind notice that Parliament was in session from 16th November to 16th December. On the last day, probably one day before the closing of the last session, on 15th December, probably the act has been introduced, this bill has been introduced in Lok Sabha. Subsequently, since that could not be passed by both the houses of the parliament, probably the government of India has opted to issue an ordinance on 28th December or some 28th December or so. So I sincerely feel, instead of resorting to this promulgation of ordinance route, probably hereinafter government of India may directly introduce the bill unless it is really warranted. So this is the suggestion what I could make, sir. Therefore, my first suggestion is that the government of India should make its effort to create the banking infrastructure throughout the country, and then promulgation of ordinance should be avoided. And thirdly, the unorganized workforce in the unorganized sector also, the act should be made applicable to them. Thank you very much.